Welcome to Conversations from the Barn at Everwood Farmstead. These are casual chats with visiting artists. Creaky barn, bugs, and all. Enjoy.
Hello, this is Chris from Conversations from the Barn, and I am here with Bill Underwood and Olivia Bratsky. Say hello.
Hello.
I won't.
You should. And also our artist on retreat this week, Rachel Moritz, poet in residence this week. Good to have you with us.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Good. And we're also here with Meg Decker, our writer in residence this week.
Glad to be here.
We're so happy you're here. It is a beautiful Friday evening. I will say it is like full-on summer. Feeling the heat and the energy coming from the grass, and we almost got a horse and buggy going down the street just like moments ago. How was your week for both of you?
So magical. I feel like just from when Meg and I arrived on Sunday night, it was like walking into sort of a vortex of magic and a very focused vortex. So got a lot of work done, but also was able to really slow down and connect to, the present moment, kind of take care of myself, just do things that were good for my body, mostly ate well, slept, all those things. So yeah, it was just wonderful, and I'm sad to have it end, but so glad to have been able to.
What was that arc for kind of falling into that caring for self and writing and?
Yeah, I think it happened right away, but I think just having this much time, it's just such a gift to have a full week and not having anyone need you or not having to check in with anyone, not thinking about work. So I felt like it just kind of naturally happened. And I think just the outside spaces too felt really supportive. I felt like everywhere I went on the farm, there was some, new vista or beautiful tree or, like a flower that was sort of just doing its thing. So I felt like the whole place also really held that kind of presentness for me.
I want to know about the mostly ate well. Like, was it a tombstone pizza that adds the mostly? Like, what was it? Like a couple of bratwurst? Like, there's something in there.
Yeah, that's a good question. It was, it was a good eating well. Yeah, I think yesterday I had brought, like food for the week, right? Like I didn't want to be wearing it. And then I think when Thursday came, I was like, I don't really want to eat the black beans that I thought were going to be really good. So I actually did drive to Glenwood City and bought some M&Ms.
Yeah! Peanut or plain?
It was peanut butter, actually.
Peanut butter?
Yeah, I neglected that part. That was
crazy,
extra
so
special.
crazy.
You went all in.
So you chose the healthier of the options between chocolate and peanut butter. You chose the
Oh
peanut
yeah, I
butter.
guess I didn't think of it that way.
Interesting way to think about it.
No, it was
You
fun.
chose the healthy dessert. I like it.
Those are the
And it was
protein
good to see,
filled
like,
M&Ms.
the town too. It was kind of nice to just be like, okay, what's beyond this place? Where does the road lead? Because I hadn't driven here through Glenwood City. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meg, how about you?
Well, Rachel and I have chatted a little bit about this already, but we both got exactly what we needed here this week, I think. But what I needed was the exact opposite of what Rachel did. I got here Sunday. We took the tour. I put my stuff down. I have still not unpacked. And within 2 hours of getting here, I sat down and wrote. And then I slept, and then I woke up and wrote, and slept and woke up and wrote, and got to live in the fictive dream, as Peter Guy talked about when I worked with him. And I really actually got to forget where I physically was. And I told myself the whole week, I can go outside on Friday, and I actually didn't leave the house until today.
Well, thank you for coming outside with us.
It was before that.
Oh, good.
I went out today. I said, okay, no writing today. I got so much done. I feel like my book is just in the last push now, and I don't feel any pressure. I just know I'm going to finish it, and it's going to work fine now. So I feel really great, and this was just the jumpstart I needed after having been ill for a long time. And I finally got back to work, and this was just bring me to a different place and just live within the world of my novel, and that's what I got to do all week.
Talk about that balance between the fire of creativity, that spark, and self-care, wellness, sleep. I mean, this is always a seesaw, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I also wrote a lot, and I think I just needed to, part of what I needed to do was get up from my computer and move, and so it was partly spending so much time writing that then I just kind of felt like I had to take breaks and be replenished. And I think in general, I spend, like most of us, I spend a lot of my life on a screen, and just been working, as we all do, on trying to figure out how to enjoy that. And really, writing for me is so pleasurable, and I love that art of being on the screen and writing a poem, but also really needing to unplug and write in my journal and walk and look at things and just sit and be still. And so I feel like, maybe to answer your question, I was able to really feel both things simultaneously. But because there was so much time, there was enough space for it all.
All right, Meg, you laughed at the sleep part of Chris's question. Why?
Because I sleep when I feel like it. I usually fall asleep at home when there are other humans around the 2 or 3 a.m. and get up at 10 or 11. And because I am lucky and get to go with my natural sleep cycle, that's what I do. But it's not really my natural sleep cycle. That is to just sleep when I'm tired and get up when I wake up, which is what I've been doing all week. So I went to bed at 7 a.m. this morning, but I was awake until then. And so that's where, for me, that just drive of writing is the self-care for me. And that's what I feel like I didn't, that is what balances me out. I write, and I am not otherwise a workaholic at all. It's all the jobs I've had were jobs I had to go to, except for teaching, which was really similar to writing and sort of the creative aspect and helping people and things like that. But that was stressful in ways that writing isn't, because, I mean, honestly, I get to play God in a book, right? So I get to just say, like, do horrible things to my characters. They're these wonderful people that you will love, and then, I'm gonna, like, do mean things to them. But yeah, it was like, I would write for 10, 12, 15 hours, and then kind of think, okay, I should eat something. So I'd eat, and then I'd go back to writing, and then, okay, well, it's time to sleep. So I'd sleep. And I feel like it's a very, like, primitive, clearly I have something genetically going on where, like, the sun means nothing, but but it's just it's so that's the part about getting away from other people that's so nice for me, because I've just never wanted to be on anyone else's schedule, and it's so great to come out here and just essentially, I felt like I just existed all week exactly how I wanted to and needed to. And I just felt driven to write the whole time. I didn't feel the stress of it. I just felt the joy and the sort of all-consuming energy that it gave me.
I want to follow up on your word of existing. Like, do you think of that as a negative?
No.
You don't?
Not at all.
That's fascinating to me, because does anybody else, like, hear that word and hear it in a negative connotation. Like I existed. It's interesting that.
Yeah. What feels negative about it to you?
Like for me, when I heard you say, like I felt like, actually I feel like you lived. Like.
I see. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
know
I know
what
what you mean. Yeah.
Like
Okay.
because for me, like you and I are like, I mean, we could not be more like diametrically opposed beings. Like to me, like I am driven by this.
Yep.
I'm pointing to my watch, and I'm driven by the light. Like, like I don't look at my watch to
It sets your whole internal.
like I don't think about my stomach. Like I can imagine you just being like, God, I'm starving. Like I'm literally starving.
I forgot to eat more than once.
Yeah.
Not for too long, but it would be like maybe if it's usually 6 hours between meals, it would be like 10, and I'd think, I should probably eat. But yeah, I think of the existing the way I said it was more of like I got to just be
Yes.
the way that I naturally, happily, healthily want to be.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky enough that writing is now my day job too. And I think what being here for the week really did was I'm going to go home now and this gets to continue with a little disruption because, other humans exist at home. Rachel is also a human. You exist. Olivia was next door.
We're like ships passing.
Yeah,
We sort
I
of
mean, there are
existed
other
and
things. There are other people and things to do with people, but I can feel it just like, the starting line and the shot went off and now I'm going and it just feels great.
What I kind of hear in that is it's kind of like tubing down the river. Where you're laying in the flow and you're just letting the flow take you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And so there's no effort in it, there's just going with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely effort, but it's it's the way that you're like, if you're going to go with the tubing, the way you try to like catch up with your friend a little bit who's ahead, or the way you want to try to spin it without working too hard to see something behind you, So it's, there's still a lot of sitting there like, what is the word? What word? And then I would stare out the window at the trees because I know that I need to look at the color green a lot. And I just would stare at it. And then the tree would give me a word, if you will.
So nature played a role.
Oh, yeah.
Even though you were very
You didn't go out.
Yeah, there's no evidence of this whatsoever, but I love being outside. Just this week was...
Yeah.
I was outside when I was just like taking in through all the windows and just making it happen.
We get the interesting purview every week, and Liv is starting to experience it this year too, of how different every week and every pairing is. Everybody's art form is completely different, and I don't know, there's something in me that I would assume that there's some kind of process underneath that maybe is similar, and sometimes there is, but every week is so different based on how someone likes to work and what that chemistry is and how you dance or how you don't dance. How was that for the two of you? Because this was a first meeting.
It was great. I think we were both working a lot and hermiting a lot, and so it really worked well. For me, I've been, parenting for 13 years, and I just needed a week to not talk to anyone. So I felt like even though Meg and I we ran into each other a couple times and in the kitchen and had conversations, but I could feel
You were having
your
dinner, I was
energy,
having breakfast.
Your energy was fueling mine, and it was like it felt like we were both there doing our work. And it felt very like the vortex. It felt like we were both in a vortex, but also I think just what you were saying, Meg, about like not needing to adapt yourself to anyone. For me, that was the same experience of just feeling like I can get up and go sit here, and then I can go sit here, and then I can walk here, and then I can sit in the hammock, and then I can go back to my computer. And it just felt like a very fluid, like the ability to just kind of go where I wanted to go. And I think, I could feel that you were having the same
Yeah.
experience.
It helped that we emailed briefly before coming, and I kind of said, okay, when I see you, I'm chatty. I talk a bunch. But then my natural state is then to just disappear. And I said, so feel free to interrupt if you need, but we're not, I'm not trying to be antisocial, but I'm just not going to be, that's not about you. And I was so relieved because Rachel's response was, yeah, no, like exactly, basically. She said, I feel the same way, please don't be offended. And I think the biggest like sort of roommate concern we had all week was like, just worrying that like the creaking floorboards and the shutting doors was going to wake the other one or something.
Right.
I sleep through anything, but I don't know, Rachel's, how lightly she sleeps. And then at one point I knew she kind of got up around this time, and I couldn't fall asleep at one point, but I was kind of too tired to work. So I was like, I'll go shower. It was 6 a.m. and I was like, oh shoot, this is her wake up time that I was like in the way. And either I wasn't, or Rachel was just being a very polite Midwesterner and said, no, I wasn't. So I take that to be good enough, because if there's a problem, you got to tell me. Can't read your mind.
It was fine. I got up just a little earlier that morning, but 6 was my waking pretty much while I was here, so it worked out.
Good.
So the space facilitated the delightful ships passing in the night kind of a concept.
Yeah, and I think also being away from home distractions is just always nice. I don't typically get distracted by messes that need cleaning or or tidying up or things like that, but it's funny how even just the dog sitting next to you like suddenly makes a cute noise, and you're like, the dog's here, and I want my dog there. I love my dog. I couldn't live without my dogs for very long, but it was like, there is no dog. There is nothing. I had the fan on, so this nice white noise. I had my headphones on where I listened to an instrumental soundtrack. I've listened to the same soundtrack just on repeat the entire week, because it's sort of like that Pavlovian, and now you're working on this piece, and I can't, it'll be something different for the next book. But it's just like, put the headphones on and go. And I think Rachel said at one point, I had been so quiet for so long, was this yesterday, that you didn't know if I was still in there?
I was a little worried. You literally haven't left your room in like 10 hours. And I like to eat like every 2 hours. Like writing is like snacking constantly, because I'm like burning out. So, get up, do this. So
Meg needed a little bell to ring every now and then.
I was good.
You did.
Well, then I'd go down to eat, and my breaks were doing Sudoku. But I don't know if you ever came across when I was doing it, because that's the one time you can hear me going 3, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 9, 2, 4, 9. And that was like a different part of the brain I got to use though. So luckily I don't do Sudoku all day with people having to hear just little numbers
Just the
recited.
dog.
Yeah, in a weird. The dog would love it. It wouldn't matter. So both my dogs' names are numbers, so that would get. But it's 11 and 0, so those aren't 1 to 9. That's actually kind of convenient.
Interesting.
Your dog's name is 11.
One of them, yeah.
Pre-Stranger Things or
No, post Stranger Things.
post Stranger Things?
And 0 is Nightmare Before Christmas, the ghost dog.
Love it.
We're all pop culture all the time in my house.
I was just reading an Emily Dickinson poem last night. I think it's "The Zeros Taught Us Phosphorus." So when you say
I'm gonna
zero,
tell people that's
just
why
look
we
that
named
one
her
up.
Zero
It's
now.
a beautiful short
Yeah.
poem.
That's great.
Yeah, the dog before that was Zelda, and I named her that so that I could convince my video game loving husband to take her. But I just told people she was named after F. Scott Fitzgerald's
Craig
wife.
Gillespie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is actually what the video game character is named after.
Oh, well, there you go.
Did not know that.
I'm thinking about what you just said earlier about you want to keep this going. Is there anything that you want to bring home from Everwood from a process perspective or a space perspective?
Yeah, I think that, I felt like I was able to really reconnect with kind of my poet self and my process, and particularly this manuscript I've been working on. I had been out of it for a while, and it is like a language and a music that I feel like I have to spend some time with for it to hear it. And so I think that it was really helpful for me. And I write, when I can, and certainly have gone on shorter retreats before. But I think I'll go back just feeling like a renewed spark around the importance of still making art and really kind of giving myself over to this project I'm working on. And I think also like a couple little things. I did I did like a little morning meditation just on a phone app, and it's always my intention to do that every day. And I won't do it every day, but just a couple of those things that I did. When I had my coffee, I wrote 10 things I could see out the window, and I think I would love to just be able to keep those two things kind of consistent. So that's my intention.
I imagine it's hard with kids at home.
Yeah, I just have one, but work and things get...
Life
happens, so it's good. It's just, yeah. So.
How about you, Meg?
Mine, like I said, I was really anticipating the beginning of this as a jump start to getting back into work. And it worked beautifully and exactly what I want. I think it worked better than what, I was expecting. Like, it really did. And to me, it was more of just the nice reminder of if I have a chair and a desk and a pair of headphones and my computer, the thing I hate most about it is just this literally looking at the screen all day, which is why I have to have real light windows. And that's why I work in my front room at home, because it's a big picture window. And so just that reminder of, in a sense of I need these 4 things, the book has to be there, and then that's it. And so it feels great I didn't have a problem at all, and I haven't over the last week, of just imagining myself doing the exact same thing in that chair, at that desk, with my dogs, who will distract me a little more, and my husband, who will, but those are all really nice distractions. So, and my husband makes sure I get fed when I'm at home.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It's a bonus.
Have you two done retreats before? Done anything like this?
I did 1 week-long retreat, I think it was 2018, so it was a while ago, which was similarly, just fantastic for just the focus and time. But that was also with a group of people, and so there was socializing built into it, which was lovely, but I hadn't been this solitary. And then before that, the last retreat I did was when I was pregnant, so it was a long time ago. So yeah, I felt really, this just was so great to be able to have that time, and a reminder that I'd like to do it again. So.
Now, this was my first one. I quit teaching in 2018 to write full time, and definitely there'd been a good 2 years during that time that was focused on other things. I ghost wrote a novel, and that kind of happened through a personal connection. An author was looking for somebody with certain background elements that I have, and that I knew what I was talking about with certain things, and she just said, "Oh, Meg, I know, you should talk to her," and it just worked out. So then I've been writing, and I finally started to get serious over the last couple of months of laying on the couch, being really sick and not being able to do anything, of thinking about how, I'm not doing the business end of this at all. And I thought of Everwood because, first of all, a friend of mine who's also a writer was here and did a retreat here once. And I was here several years ago for the John Mark Nelson concert. And when I was here, I think back then it was an invitation-only kind of retreat. And you guys had talked about how the goal was to have it be bigger and more open. And immediately I thought, okay, I'm going to come here one day. And so this was sort of an easy, for me, sort of business decision, because it's, I hate to say the business end of it. Rachel and I and every other writer I know like to sit around going ugh about the business end of it, because most people who want to do the artistic stuff are like, that's not what my job is, like calling people and rubbing elbows and applying for grants and, you know, don't even get me started on submitting for publication. And so I thought, okay, well, you know, retreats look good, and also I really want to go on that. I like to be everywhere. I like to travel everywhere. So I thought this is probably the time, and it was just a really great first experience going on one. And you know, that sort of more camp-like aspect you talked about, Rachel, where like maybe it's a little more socializing, maybe sometimes there's more structured activities. That also sounds like it would fill different needs. I'm usually up for whatever a place has to offer for me, but I cannot say it enough. This was what I needed at this point in my life and my writing, and it has been perfect. And I think the thing that you guys have all said, that there are a lot of different, you know, it's different every week and every artist does it differently. And I think you said there are no shoulds, right? There's no, you should do it this way, you should be at Everwood this way, you should spend your time in this way. And I think that you have done such a great job providing a space where that is true. You don't just say it. I think that the most scared moment I had all week was when there was a lightning storm and I was downstairs and I ran upstairs to unplug my computer because I was like, my book! Because I couldn't back it up on my external hard drive at home until I get home. And I thought that this is going to be the time that the lightning strikes, and it goes. So I went and unplugged it, and I think I woke up Rachel, and I said, "Rachel, do you have any? Like your writing? Is there anything plugged in?" And she was like, "No." And I was like, "Oh shoot." So yeah, considering
you can laugh about it now.
yeah, I'm really sorry about that.
No, and I wasn't quite asleep yet.
Okay,
it was all good. And my computer was unplugged, and it was a very cool storm. I mean, it was dramatic and kind of beautiful, but also,
Yeah, I came back downstairs and sat in front of the giant window and did Sudoku and looked out the window at the lightning storm. So, but considering that's like the most negative experience of the week was about 20 seconds of fear that all my hard work was going to go down the tubes. But it didn't so far. It's got to still make it home, but you know.
Any advice for artists who might be considering taking a retreat and not sure if they want to take a week off, or if they should take a week off, or head to the country that they've never been before?
Oh gosh, I would say definitely do it. You know, I think it's just such a gift to your writer self, and you just kind of feel like you can really grow in proportion to that time. And I think I think this space also felt really particularly magical and supportive, and you know, also if you're, you know, for anyone in the Twin Cities or, you know, around the Wisconsin, Minnesota area, you know, just it's accessible too. So I feel like it's a really you're in, you know, a more rural area, but for someone who's maybe a little concerned about that, you're also pretty close to, you know, a town. If you want the peanut, you know, M&Ms, you can go. So yeah, I think do it. Definitely apply.
The essentials are around the corner.
The essentials are around the corner.
I brought chocolate with me in the first place, and I've had ice cream every day, and I don't feel bad at all. And that
that's the way life should be.
Exactly, and I think that actually plays into this. I've had a really strong philosophy around the selfishness for a long time, and it actually started with a book by Terry Tempest Williams that I read, and she has a conversation with her mother in it, where she says she doesn't want kids, and then her mother says that's selfish, and her response was, and again I'm paraphrasing, it was, having kids is a different form of selfish, and I by no means want everyone now to feel guilty and terrible because you did or didn't have kids, because no matter what, you're a selfish being. But I read it when I was young, and I didn't understand it exactly, and it stuck with me, and I thought about it so much over these years. I mean, I think it was 20-something years ago when I read that. But over time, it has made so much sense to me. And part of that was because my husband and I have chosen not to have children. We have a rotating cast of 18 to 20 somethings who live in our house. It's just who knows who's going to be there from one month to the next. But then I was thinking about the actual selfishness and how I think the biggest thing that stops artists is often guilt. And I think that stops them on almost everything. It stops them from quitting their day jobs, even if they could make it work, or stops them from cutting down the hours. It stops them from, saying no to social events a little more often. It's because art is this societal thing that everyone needs artists to make. People have to read and go to movies and listen to music and all of the rest of it. And I don't think we're humans without it. But then anytime, you kind of meet the artists, if you will, and people just think, oh, that's self-indulgent and gross, and they think so highly of themselves. And I don't think that's everyone. I think that's just sort of like a bit of the sort of, well, that's not a useful major to go into kind of, attitude. But the thing is, what I learned in teaching, running myself ragged for a decade, and finally realizing I cannot solve the problems of the lives of 1,000 kids, and myself. And it turns out that if you don't take a week, if you don't try to do, or that time in the morning or whatever it is, but you should do the retreat or whatever it is you need to do, because it turns out to be really selfish not to ever be selfish, because you're going to drive everybody else insane. You're going to run yourself ragged, and then people have to take care of you to a degree that's so much needier and more difficult and harder on everyone's feelings than if you just say, hey, I love you, I'm going to disappear for a week. And I think artists need that to recharge. And the people in their lives are also then maybe at home or at work. And you know what? They're finding ways to adapt and survive without you. And maybe there were some things they enjoyed about that week with you not being there, even though you're amazing and they miss you and they want you back.
We say all the time that the reason that the foundation focuses on the artist experience is that when you are happy and healthy and nurtured, it's good for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We have a traditional question that we end our podcast with that we will ask you now.
Just like inside the actor's studio.
Kind of, yeah. And just as difficult. And so the question is, how have you experienced beauty today?
So many things, but I took a walk. Well, Olivia helped me take a meditation walk, which you all created. I don't know if it's a secret, but I'll, not supposed to discuss it.
You can discuss it.
Okay. Anyway, after I did that lovely experience with the tree, I just went out past your beehives out there, which I had walked past before. But kind of slowed down and took some time just to watch them and just, honeybees, like they're just so alive as this is their peak season, right? There's so many flowers, there's so much to gather, and also thinking about like how far they travel and, just the prairie nearby. And so it was very lovely just to stand there and watch them and kind of feel some kinship with them. I think that's one thing I've really been thinking a lot about while I've been here is just, kinship with the natural world and even thinking about it with, all of the smoke we've been having and, especially trying to write about that and think about that, but just how to still be in beauty when so much of our world feels really difficult, just everything that's going on. So I felt lucky to have that moment with the bees. Yeah.
I think almost everything in my day has been beautiful already. I think you kind of touched on this. It does help to not listen to the news. I'm a pretty big news junkie, and that's what usually makes me yell into the air at nobody. And then my husband's like, they can't hear you, But no, I slept till 2 this afternoon after going to bed at 7 a.m. I asked my husband, I texted him and said, can you call me at 2? And so I got to wake up to talking to him instead of a horrible alarm clock noise, because waking up to me is the worst part of every single day. Not being awake, just that transition I'm very bad at. It's quite unpleasant. But then, I knew that today was the day. Okay, I worked all week, and so Friday I'm just going to kind of wander around and look at stuff. So I walked downstairs and I read through some of the guest book notes and things like that, and that was really nice. And I was excited because I thought, oh, I didn't know this person has been here. Or, there was a really beautiful note from Bill to Chris. I don't know if it's in there. There's no like personal detail to be embarrassed by, but it was just really sweet.
I can't wait to hear what it is.
I think it was a little anniversary card that was in there. Yeah, you should probably go get it. But like I said, it was not, I wasn't reading into your private anything.
Seriously, one of my anniversary cards doing
it was
in there?
cute.
I don't know.
I think
love it.
it sounded
Was
like
I
it was
sweet?
Maybe it was anniversary for Everwood. I bet it was that, because there were other like thanks for having us. So it was probably an anniversary party.
It was.
for
We had our
Everwood.
10-year anniversary.
But
here.
it sounded like the card was just like, I love you the most, and I loved it. So that was
sounds
beautiful.
like
That was
Well, no, but it
that
was written by
beautiful.
me, so it's made it sound like I was the more romantic of the two. Would you say, Meg?
I think I got to step away from this one. Like, until you work that out.
But you're
She
nodding your
hasn't-
head aggressively. Yeah, I love that. So,
She hasn't experienced the other side, just yours.
Okay,
yeah.
but who created the beautiful piece of paper in the downstairs study with, like, it looked like the events of a year?
Ooh, that was me.
2020? Was it 2020?
That's still hanging up.
Yes,
I was
it
going to
is.
say,
Oh, we
of
have
course.
not edited very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course it was
thought-
Bill,
Kiva journey.
I liked it. I felt like it was part of my week. Just, yeah. Anyway.
You talked about
Yeah.
living with
Back
your
to
watch,
Megan
so
here.
it sounds like you're definitely the one who has to. Is he the on-paper organizer of the two of you? Or do you both do it?
Do you even need to ask that question, girl?
I mean, you clearly are, but I don't know if he also tries,
Tries. Yeah. Thank you both for taking time for this little conversation from the barn. We appreciate it.
Thank you for deciding, to have Everwood Farmstead Artist Retreat be something you're going to pour everything into for other people. And maybe for yourself too, I hope.
Definitely.
Of course.
Conversations like this are part of it. Yeah. Thank
And
you.
the other side of that is thank both of you for saying yes to the invitation.
I couldn't wait.
This has been a highlight of, I think, of my whole life. As far as just, I say that with very happy heart. So.
Well, thank you. Well, please stay in touch. Talk soon.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Conversations from the Barn at Everwood Farmstead. Our theme music is provided by John Mark Nelson. Wishing you all good health.